When I was in high school, my two best friends were dating each other and I was the unfortunate third wheel. But one night, they wanted me to go see a movie with them, but I was hesitant because I didn't want to be a third wheel again. So to make it better, they invited another one of our friends, who just so happened to make it clear to me almost every 5 minutes that this wasn't a double date. Literally saying stuff like, "Aaron, remember this isn't a double date, I would never date you." Now granted, I was not remotely attracted to this person, but what in the fuck is that? Why did she have to say that so harshly and start me on my track of having self-esteem issues to the point where I'm still struggling with it a good 10 years later? Anyway, so the movie is Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. Now to set the scene a bit, this movie came out in early 2016, which means that these movies were also out in theaters at the same time. Deadpool, The Hateful Eight, The Revenant, Star Wars The Force Awakens, Kung Fu Panda 3, Ride Along 2, Daddy's Home, and Dirty Grandpa. So why we picked this movie of all movies, I have no idea. But little did I know, we picked the very best one. This movie is a straight up banger and I'm not going to debate it. I am going to talk about it though. So let's get into Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. Spoilers ahead. So this movie is based around the very popular and very world-renowned novel Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. Yes, you heard me right. A writer by the name of Seth Grahame-Smith, I think that's how you pronounce it, wrote a parody novel of the even more well-known novel Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, and it was this book that this movie is based on. This movie has already achieved unheard levels of aura. It's not just a parody movie, it's a movie based on a parody, based on a book. That is sick. Anyway, the movie begins with our good friend Mr. Darcy, who looks like a mix between Emma Mackey from Sex Education and Edward Scissorhands or something like that. But he shows up to this mansion where a guy looks at his junk for some reason, and then he questions a bunch of people playing poker, questioning them about a bite, because in this world, there are zombies, and Mr. Darcy here is a zombie hunter, so to speak. He's also rich. It's not really important right now, but just know that he is. But he finds the culprit and makes him no longer alive. Or I guess he was already unalive. Whatever, you get the point. He killed the zombie. Then we get this long drawn out backstory of how the zombies came to be and what's been happening in the world. And I'm gonna save trying to explain it all, so I'm just gonna say this. There are zombies and there are walls. There's like this one wall, and then there's another wall that separates the two walls, and then there's also a bridge. And then also zombies. Anyway, then we meet the Bennet family, a family of 5 daughters who are all at the proper age to start looking into marrying. The story is that once Mr. Bennet dies, no one will be able to take care of his daughters, so he needs them all to marry someone who will. By the way, this is pretty much the story of the original Pride and Prejudice, more or less. I haven't actually seen that movie and series, the miniseries, for probably 10 plus years, so there's probably a bunch of references and callbacks that I will miss because I'm a shitty YouTuber who doesn't do his research and makes fun of surface level qualities. Please subscribe. Anyway, Tywin Lannister Bennet man has them go to this ball, where one of his daughters, Jane, finds herself a bae. A bae by the name of Mr. Bingley, who looks like he should be on a poster in every teenage girl's room as a teenage vampire or some shit. Anyway, they hit it off, and then Mr. Bingley tells Mr. Darcy, "Yo dude, I know I already found my bae, but did you see her sister? She fine shit." And Mr. Darcy goes, "Nah, she mid." Yeah, that's actually the dialogue. Totally didn't paraphrase there. But who they're talking about is none other than our main character, Elizabeth Bennet, who gets hurt by Mr. Darcy's words and storms out of the ball. I did actually hear some fans didn't like this because Elizabeth is supposed to be strong and confident and unrelenting towards what people say about her, so for her to cry about it is a little out of character. That said, I don't really care, I just want more zombies. Hey look, a zombie!
You're undead. I've come to tell you.
Yeah, so I don't know what Zombie Lady was going to say, and unless I didn't pay attention, it doesn't seem like we ever get that answer. Anyway, zombies attack the ball, and who comes to the rescue? The 5 Bennet daughters, who are absolute badasses. I didn't mention this earlier, but Mr. Bennet has been training all of his daughters to fight off zombies their whole life, and it definitely shows. Also, I'm not trying to sound like a creep, but this makes them all 10 times more attractive. And Mr. Darcy agrees, doing a full 180 on his thoughts of Miss Bennet and folding immediately.
Her face is rendered uncommonly intelligent by the beautiful expression of her dark eyes, and I'm forced to acknowledge her figure has both light and pleasing. That her arms are surprisingly muscular, yet not so much as to be unfeminine.
Anyway, then the girls talk about the men they met at the ball, while beating the shit out of each other. I speak for all men here. Do not ever hurt these women, for your life is in serious danger. But in all seriousness, I love this scene simply because of how it so differentiates itself from the original story, but has it make complete sense for the premise of this movie. Of course the sisters would be training while talking about the dudes from the party rather than sitting around a room with tea and scones. It makes sense. Also, you know, I really do love the idea of just adding zombies to random dramas and period pieces. Like, did any of you guys play the original Red Dead Redemption game? One of the best parts of that game was the bonus DLC, where the entire area became infested by zombies and you had to liberate the towns from the undead. It was sick. Totally unnecessary for that game to do that, but sick nonetheless. Seriously though, imagine if more movies did that. Sense and Sensibility, and zombies. Little Women, and zombies. The Notebook, and zombies. Forrest Gump, and zombies. The Perks of Being a Wildflower, and zombies. Hidden Figures, and zombies. The Godfather, and zombies. Zombies, and zombies. Like, the possibilities are endless. I love it. Comment down below a movie you'd like to see be remade with zombies. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Anyway, back to the movie. Jane goes off to see Mr. Bingley and runs into a zombie with a baby, which I don't want to know how that happened. And then she ends up sick, so Lizzie has to come and see her, and she runs into Mr. Darcy, and they have a smart off or an aura off. I don't know. There's a lot of big words and shit, but they're borderline flirting. Then back home, we get introduced to Matt Smith. What the fuck is this cast? We're getting a Game of Thrones House of the Dragon reunion, but he is their cousin and wants to basically marry one of them. Damn, it really is like Game of Thrones. We got Tywin, Daemon, later Cersei, some incest, and then some White Walkers. This is literally just Game of Thrones. But he wants to ask Jane for her hand in marriage, but she's already taken by Bay.
I'm afraid Jane is already spoken for. We expect a serious proposal imminently.
Oh, fuddle.
But Liz is quite available, and almost as fair as Jane.
Is there absolutely no negotiating over Jane?
Wait, why is he so funny in this? Also, saying Lily James is almost as good looking, movie, are you serious? Nothing against Jane's actress, she is very attractive too, but saying Lizzie isn't as attractive is like saying that one line in Barbie with Margot Robbie. Anyway, so we get to know Mr. Collins a bit more, the Matt Smith character, to find out he's a loser.
Miss Bennet,
Thank you, Mr. Collins.
allow me. Gallantry isn't dead. Come now, we mustn't be late.
Okay, he is funny though, I can't lie. Then they head into town where we meet Mr. Wickham, a lieutenant of the army who also happens to hate Mr. Darcy. Lizzie gets the inside scoop and finds Mr. Darcy to be even more repulsive than she thought before. Then we go to the second ball, where Matt Smith just wows us with his head-turning skills. Then, a big surprise, Mr. Darcy of all people asks Lizzie to a dance, where she says no. Not really a shocker there. Then Lizzie sees that zombies have infiltrated this ball as well, so she asks Mr. Bingley for help.
Mr. Bingley.
Smooth, man. Smooth. But Darcy comes to Lizzie's rescue after Bingley bonks his head. Not that she needed saving because she's a badass, but whatever. And she hits him with a burn of a line.
Your abilities as a warrior are beyond reproach, Mr. Darcy. If only you were as good a friend.
Then we find out that Bingley straight up dipped, leaving Jane behind and not asking her to marry him. Man. But who does ask for a hand in marriage is Mr. Collins to Lizzie, who fails miserably as Lizzie says in the nicest way possible, ew, no. Luckily, her dad is on her side. W dad. Then she runs off and sees what looks to be the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, only to be jump scared-ish by Mr. Wickham. I'm sure those two things aren't related at all. But he tells Lizzie that there's something she needs to see, so they go into the in-between, which is where the zombies reside. You know how I mentioned there's like a wall and then another wall? That's where it is. Also, they do an Indiana Jones map transition with blood. That's cool. But he leads her to a church where there are zombies who haven't fully turned because they have only eaten pig brains, not human brains. I'm gonna be honest, this movie is sick and I love it, but I don't get the zombies at all. I have no idea what the difference is between a full zombie or not. It seems like almost every zombie we've seen has been somewhat civilized and not in a huge hurry to eat people. But whatever. But Mr. Wickham says that these creepy child zombies and the rest of them are the key to winning the war by coming to a truce with them as long as they don't eat human brains. So they go to the house of Lady Catherine de or whatever her name is, I don't know, to get money because they need money to fight. Or something. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Just enjoy the movie. They're zombies. It's cool, okay? Also, it's Cersei, who's missing an eye because reasons, and has an AI-looking painting of her fighting Dracula. Apparently, she's this badass zombie killer, but we rarely actually see her do anything. Also, I feel like I'm shitting on the movie a lot, and let me be clear, I am. But it's still very enjoyable, and I am loving the shit out of this. Anyway, we learn that Mr. Darcy is the nephew of Lady Catherine, so of course he's there, and of course him and Lizzie have a look-off at each other for like 5 minutes straight. Then we learn a bit more about Mr. Wickham as he shows up randomly in the middle of the night and then disappears into the darkness. Totally not an evil character in any way, shape, or form. Then Lizzie tries going to sleep in arguably the most uncomfortable looking position, only to be met by Mr. Darcy, who just shows up and out of nowhere asks for her hand in marriage. He literally goes, "Hey, listen, I in fact do think you're fine shit now, like my bro said. So, you wanna?" Kinda crazy how in this time period you just straight up ask for marriage before anything else. Nowadays, you can barely talk at someone without them feeling uncomfortable. Now, in all seriousness again, this movie does a lot of things really well, but what it doesn't do is show the progression of the love between Mr. Darcy and Miss Bennet. I do think the chemistry is there, and the story is there, but there's just not enough of it to be believable. In what world do you think Lizzie would say yes to you, bro? You have done nothing to win her affection in this specific movie, especially when Lizzie just learned that he was the one who sent Mr. Bingley away to not marry Jane, and also accused her of wanting Mr. Bingley just for his money. That said, once again, I love how in this version they are legitimately fighting while fighting, and using the exact same lines from the original movies and books. It's a cool spin on this scene while having it still somewhat make sense in the context of this movie.
You withhold the advantages that you know were designed for him.
Okay, I'm not even gonna lie. I would have folded too if she did this to me. I can't even blame you, Darcy. But this scene goes about as well as can be expected, with Lizzie telling Mr. Darcy to politely fuck off.
What happened, Lizzie?
This is an antique.
Fucking Matt Smith, dude. Anyway, later Mr. Darcy tells Lizzie via mail the whole truth about himself, and that he was just worried about his friend Bingley and he didn't want him to get hurt. And then more importantly, why him and Mr. Wickham aren't friends. Apparently, Mr. Wickham kept asking for money from Mr. Darcy after Mr. Darcy's dad passed away. And after a while, Darcy eventually said no, which made Wickham a bit mad. But what's even worse is that he tried marrying Mr. Darcy's 15-year-old sister, which, and I hope this isn't controversial, it shouldn't be, but yuck! That is sick and it's gross and you are ugly and you smell, Mr. Wickham. Anyway, we then find out that Mr. Wickham has taken Lydia, their other sister, and brought her to the church where the pig zombies are. So Lizzie and Jane go to rescue her, where they run into Mr. Bingley and Mr. Darcy. Jane and Bingley make up, and Lizzie and Darcy say hey. Yeah, they're not quite there yet. But Mr. Darcy lies to Lizzie and says that the church where Lydia is fell already, only for him to go there himself in order to protect Lizzie. There he manages to free Lydia, as well as turn the tame zombies into full zombies by giving them human brains to eat. Now, in one way, I feel like that's a bit much, especially if these zombies weren't hurting anybody, but then we do see a map where they were planning to attack London, so whatever. But who has been leading these zombies? Good old Mr. Wickham, who happens to have been a zombie this entire time, I guess. So him and Darcy fight to the death, until Lizzie shows up and saves the day, cuts off his arm. I guess that kills him. Then her and Darcy get to the bridge and they pull a Rick Grimes and blow it up, leading the zombies to fall right into the river. Man, it really is that episode of The Walking Dead, like beat for beat. But Darcy gets really hurt from the blast, so Lizzie confesses to him finally that he's fine shit too. And then they kiss. But Darcy dies. Just kidding, he's fine. And her and Lizzie finally get together, with Lizzie saying yes to his second proposal. Then it ends with Mr. Collins, of all people, wedding both Mr. Darcy and Lizzie, and Mr. Bingley and Jane, who all live happily ever after. Or do they? No, there is a mid-credit scene where Mr. Wickham is still alive and is leading an entire horde of zombies, followed by the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, right to their doorstep, and the movie cuts to black. Man, I wish this got a sequel. Guys, like the video if you want a sequel to this. Anyway, so that was Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. In all seriousness, this is a very enjoyable film. Is it a good movie necessarily? No, but I think bad movies can still be enjoyable, and this is definitely one of those movies. I like how it can still be somewhat serious while also being fully aware of what it is, all while not really damaging the original source material. Like, I don't think Jane Austen fans would actually be offended by this movie, which I think is an exception to most parody movies. But let me know what you guys think. Do you like this movie? Do you hate it? And if there's anyone crazy enough to say it, do you think this movie is better than the original movie or the miniseries? I'd love to know if anyone thinks that. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Much love. Again, be sure to comment if there's any other movies you would love to see with zombies, and I will see you all in the next one.